Lynne Andersen's not just beautiful, inspiring work, but I would say important work. That's what we need. We need someone with worldview, which she has, who is contemporary as she is, and who has a vision that is about the present moment, but then goes from the moment to the future. She is an awakener. She does wakeful arts. She makes us go, whoa. Oh. Aha. Well, okay. I hadn't seen that before. I hadn't thought that before. I hadn't been awake to that before. And since it's so hard to think in a really new way, it's really important that we have somebody who can show us in a new way. Look at that. She is a kind of a Vesuvius of creativity. Just keeps like that, like that, like that. Because thinking in our culture has been separated out from all of the quality areas, art and visual arts, performing arts, literature, religion, emotion. All of that has been put to the side of thinking, and thinking is in the domain of science and a narrower and narrower conception of what it is to think. But Lynne Andersen breaks that dichotomy in dozens of ways, as you should know by now if you've looked around at her art and the varieties of the art, the complexity and just the sheer imagination, the great poetry and drama of it all. And that's what we need.
And just a few minutes talking about my art in particular, but also art in the world and art and consciousness, because I think it's actually so imperative. Zeitgeist, the name of this show, the German word that means the spirit of the times, came from my exploration of this play that's so important to all of us involved in consciousness studies between the surface phenomenon and all that's happening in culture and in the world and in this planet and the earth and everything that's happening with what's unfolding around us, and then something very deep inside of us that is eternal, that is vast, that is infinite, that is permeating the very cosmos itself, that is the light that gave birth to the worlds that we're seeing. And what is the relationship between those two? And this is not an abstract philosophical question that we can think about sort of idly. This is actually a really extremely important question for our time, because in many ways we're out of time. For a lot of the solutions that might have come earlier on, had we been thinking well, rationally, logically, etc., we're out of time. It's too late. It's too late for those solutions. The momentum of things that are happening in this world right now are at such a pace that we have to break out of all the motions that are in motion, the inertias that come from motion and stillness, to another level. And in that other level, we can be there in time. We can reach solutions. We can draw from a divine font that's at the heart of every human being, that's at the heart of every creature. And that divine font has solutions that would never occur to the rational mind. And I think, when you look at art, anything can go in the arts so long as you have no consideration or concern for consciousness, evolution, the survival of our planet, etc. If you do care about any of those things, then anything does not go in the arts. What goes is things that can awaken us to higher levels of consciousness, that can awaken us to superconscious solutions. And it is not dead sharks floating in formaldehyde. It is not beds that someone slept in. It is something that opens our minds and our hearts to respond from the vastness of who we are. Because we have enormous resources within us, and we are on a broken record with a little needle on kind of one little track here. The problems that happened was when we went outside the conscious mind, we tended to go towards the subconscious and the unconscious. And a lot of surrealism and movements since then were like, okay, as soon as we go outside of the normal, ordinary reality, we're going to go into some sort of the gravity and the inertia that takes us into lower states of consciousness. And there is, in spiritual practices of all traditions, all true traditions, there is an impetus of aspiration. And that aspiration is a gravity towards higher, more expanded realities. And that is extremely important to bring through in the arts and in anything we're doing with culture and consciousness. We have to raise the energy up to reach higher states of consciousness that are accessed outside of the rational mind. Words, images, music, all the modalities. That's part of what is in this expanding mode of consciousness, is intermodality of thinking and of being, and of our bodies, our minds, our hearts. We need to delve into and dive into those practices that bring them together, that help bring syntony and synchronicity and the flow of an energy that pours through us, because ultimately we can't do it. But we, acting as conduits and channels, as instruments of a flow, of an energy and a force and an intelligence and a consciousness far greater than we, and yet in some strange sense ultimately who we are. That's how we can do the work that needs to be done in these times. So